In this lesson, we are going to see which are the possible pharmacological precautions you can or must practice to prevent illnesses while traveling. The meaning of traveling itself is to encounter different places, nature, climate, and people. This also means you can encounter different environments for viruses and bacteria that found their best condition to survive and develop as they couldn't do in your country. In particular, many diseases that many countries have eliminated are still prevalent in other parts of the world. This means you could be vulnerable to any or some contacts with the environment, people, and fauna. The best strategies for a traveler to cope with these diseases are essentially two: vaccination and prophylaxis. Let's have a look at the first strategy. Bacteria and viruses that get in contact with our body make our immune system produce antibodies against them. To protect us against different disease, our immune system has developed the capability of producing a specific pool of antibodies against each type of organism our body encounters. Antibodies help the body recognize and kill the foreign organisms. Then, they remain in your blood flood to help the body protect itself against future infection with the same organisms. This is known as active immunity. Vaccines contain extracts or inactivated forms of bacteria or viruses that cause a specific disease. When assumed, vaccines stimulate the immune system to produce antibodies against those extracts or inactivated parts without causing disease itself. After this first reaction, the antibodies produced remain in the body, having a memory of the pathogen they encountered. In this way, if the organism is encountered again, the immune system can recognize it and attack it. Like we said before, specific antibodies are needed for each type of pathogen. Consequently, different vaccines are needed to prevent different diseases. Travelers, especially when moving to tropical countries as well as to many other regions of the world, will better be vaccinated against diseases present in these regions. Examples include cholera, hepatitis A, typhoid fever, rabies, meningococcal, and many others. Vaccine may be mandatory or recommended. Vaccines are mandatory when there are requirements for the host country in order to issue your entry visa. For instance, this is the case of Angola, where a yellow fever vaccine is mandatory if you want to get the visa. Other examples are Saudi Arabia or Costa Rica that require yellow fever vaccine certificate if you come from a country where this disease is endemic, such as Brazil. When vaccines are not mandatory to enter the country, it may be recommended or strongly recommended to be vaccinated. In this case, it is important to collect information about host country endemic disease situation and discuss it with the family doctor. It should be noted that even experts disagree on whether a vaccine is strongly recommended or not, and travelers may receive conflicting information. Therefore, travelers may have to assess their own risk by considering the nature of the trip, their specific health conditions. Regarding the nature of the trip, a traveler visiting only hygienic, air-conditioned places for a few days will not face the same risk as someone traveling extensively to rural areas of the same country. Regarding their specific health condition, there are some circumstances when vaccination could be not recommended. For example, for pregnant women or women who plan pregnancies, and immunocompromised people with human immunodeficiency virus, asplenia, solid organ and hematopoietic transplantation, and other immunosuppressed states. Who can help you making the most appropriate assessment for your case? Usually, there are specialized units within the national health system of your home country that can provide the most appropriate counseling for you. For example, within the Italian national health system, there are prophylaxis offices at the local AUSL, the Local Health Unit Authority, which is a public office of Italian public administration, responsible for the provision of health services. Each country has its own specific offices for this service. If you need to vaccinate, make sure to do it according to the correct timetable before your trip. In some cases, it is necessary to do it also a few weeks before leaving. Remember also that despite their success in preventing disease, vaccines are not 100% effective all of the time. The vaccinated traveler should never assume that there is no risk of catching the disease against which they have been vaccinated. Precautions should be followed carefully, as these can be important in preventing the illnesses as the vaccine itself. In fact, vaccination is not the only possible strategy to prevent disease. Let's move now to the second strategy, which is prophylaxis. Prophylaxis is a set of actions and precautions to prevent contracting primary infection diseases. It consists in the use of antibiotics, disinfectant, and recommended hygiene practices. For some diseases for which a vaccine does not exist, it is the only applicable strategy. This is the case of malaria, for instance, that is endemic in some areas of the world. The World Health Organization founded the protection of malaria on the principle called ABCDE of malaria. This acronym means awareness, bite preventions, chemoprophylaxis, diagnosis, and emergency treatment. Your protection can be achieved by avoiding places where mosquitoes are more concentrated, using chemical and mechanical protection such as mosquito nets, insecticides, and repellent lotions. The third approach is the preventive use of drugs, which must be chosen based on geographical risk to contract malaria. Malaria drugs must be taken in fed state under medical prescriptions, following instructions strictly. No drug prophylaxis as a protective action at 100%, so it's very important to associate with behavioral measures of preventions. Finally, it comes diagnosis and emergency treatment. If you have been in a country with malaria and you can recognize symptoms such as fever within a month, do not hesitate or procrastinate underestimating the fever episodes and see a doctor immediately. Let's recap. Traveling abroad means to potentially get in contact with diseases that have been eradicated in our country but not in our host country. In order to protect ourselves from these diseases, there are two main strategies: vaccination and prophylaxis. The first one may moreover be mandatory if the host country requires it at the moment of asking your visa. Or it may be recommended so that we have to assess the risk of incurring in touch with the diseases according to either the nature of our trip and our health conditions. The second one is a set of actions and precautions to prevent contracting primarily infectious diseases. It is always an available strategy, and in some cases, for which vaccination does not exist, is the only strategy we can apply. Finally, always remember that if you are about to leave for a trip, you shall first of all collect all the relevant information regarding the health situation in the country, identifying if any disease exists, if vaccination exists, is required or recommended. Remember also that you are not alone in this assessment process. Always refer to your doctor, who will address you to the most appropriate specialized service available in your own country.